America as a world power, that's our topic for today, but we're going to start off with a joke that takes us back in time to the pre-Revolutionary War period. The joke is, what did they do at the Boston Tea Party? I don't know. I wasn't invited. Come on, everybody. Stick with me here. America as a world power. The United States been has is becoming more involved with imperialism. Now we're to the topic, just so you can all follow along. It has been experimenting with imperialism and becoming a global power, and that is what we inevitably see the rise of for the United States during this time. Concepts for today. How did Teddy Roosevelt view the place of the United States in the world? What reasons did the U.S. have to build the Panama Canal? And what were the key foreign policy achievements surrounding imperialism? And vocab words for today, there they are. One is the Panama Canal, but the first one there, the Roosevelt Corollary. Don't let the second word there really throw you for a loop. It's a simple idea, and we'll see how it ties into the lecture today. As for the United States becoming a world power, Teddy Roosevelt certainly had a role in that. He actually was a Rough Rider. He was a Rough Rider in the Spanish-American War for the United States, and then in 1901, as you already know, becomes president of the U.S. And he is a firm believer in imperialism, and we see that on different occasions. And one of the first areas in which we see that is something that has to do with the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine was created by President Monroe back in 1823. And the doctrine said that that European nations were supposed to stay out of the affairs of the Western Hemisphere, basically North, South, and Latin America. Okay? That's what they were supposed to do. But because of the United States' lack of power at the time this proclamation was made, they didn't have any way to really back that up with any force. Well, we see by the early 1900s that things are shifting, things are beginning to change, and the United States does have some power. And within the Monroe Doctrine, Roosevelt adds the Roosevelt Corollary, which states that if a European nation does interfere with the affairs in the Western Hemisphere, that the United States reserves the right to use force against them. What it really is, it's a protective measure for the United States to protect its interest in all the resources that are possibly available to the United States in Latin America and South America. One of the ways in which we see Roosevelt exert his power or interest in Latin America is when he creates the Panama Canal. Panama is actually controlled by Colombia at the time that Roosevelt is president, and the United States, working as sometimes they do, Roosevelt had a bunch of warships near Panama right at the same time Panama announced its independence from Colombia. What a surprise. Anyway, the United States, with its warships right on the seaboard, was able to protect Panama from Colombia if Colombia chose to attack. And then the United States gave Panama a bunch of money to create the canal. And the purpose of the canal was to speed up trade by connecting the east and west, the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, and shortening the trade route between the two oceans. Certainly something that would help out the economy on a large scale. Woodrow Wilson, who is the next president after Taft, he is also going to be a promoter of imperialism, and his form of it is known as a missionary policy, which means it's a policy of the United States feeling it has the right to intervene in a country, another country outside the United States, where it sees fit and for what is supposed to be a good cause. So, for example, if a country is being oppressed or its values are being undermined but through violence, things of that nature, the United States would reserve the right to go ahead and intervene in that country and set things straight according to the United States. Certainly an idea of that revolves around the idea of being culturally superior to others and your beliefs being better than other people's beliefs. Okay? And we actually see this play out in Mexico at the time of the Mexican Revolution during Woodrow Wilson's presidency. Now, during the time of Woodrow Wilson's presidency, if we look back at what America has accomplished during its imperialism run here, there are three things really worth noting. And the first is that the United States has built up a large navy, and that's essential if you're going to take over lands from different parts of the world. The second thing that we find out is that they really do believe, the United States believes that they're, having access to foreign markets is going to ensure economic success at home in the United States. It's going to ensure domestic success. And the last thing that can be mentioned, if I can remember it here, somebody help me out, help me out. The last thing that is worth mentioning is that Teddy Roosevelt and what he did as a imperial president is he, by with the Roosevelt Corollary and the Monroe Doctrine, he really sees the United States as kind of the police officer of the Western Hemisphere, and that's actually kind of what that picture, the picture higher up on the screen, is about. We are setting the rules of the game for for the Western Hemisphere as to what can and can't be done. And there's not a whole lot of countries that are interested in either stopping us or making their way over to the Western Hemisphere to try and stop the United States. With that said, what's looming on the horizon is World War I, and that's what we're going to move into next time.